Welcome to On Texas Football Saturday update. Got to update this. Ja'Tavion Sanders, CJ, announces that he is going pro via Pete Thamel of ESPN. Thamel, of course, has been right on just about everything Longhorn as it relates to going pro. So we're going to go with this. We believe it to be true based on our sources as well. Sanders, one of the all-time leading receivers at tight end for the University of Texas, 99 catches over his 2-year starting career at tight end. CJ Vogel, a little bit of a hurt here because there was some thought he might be considering returning, but really he looks like he could be the number 2 tight end in the draft. Getting him to come back was going to be a tall task no matter what, but big news here for the Longhorns.
Absolutely. I think on one hand, you're very excited that another playmaker from your university, from the University of Texas, is entering the NFL draft, a guy that you can point to and say, come be developed, come put up some years in Austin, and soon you will be drafted in the same position as Ja'Tavion Sanders. One, very encouraging. Two, like you said, Bobby, it was a bit of a long shot to expect Ja'Tavion Sanders to return for 2024. Obviously, there was conversations. There was an obvious desire and need for Texas to bring back Sanders for 2024. But as we've said, a bit of a long shot. I think you even raised that percentages up from 95 to 98 in expectation that he would depart for the NFL. But like you said, it's a bit of a fun moment for everybody here, because this has not been a position of Texas in the last couple of years to have really put in a lot of offensive weapons into the NFL draft in a spot where they can hear their name called in the first 3 rounds, whatever it might be. But for Ja'Tavion Sanders, it's exciting. Texas will now move into 2024 with a big hole at the tight end position, and one that they hope to fill a lot of production with, whether it be with Gunnar Helm, someone out of the portal, a lot to be made up for with the departure of Ja'Tavion Sanders.
Well, I mean, Texas is going to lose guys to the league. That's to be expected, and it's actually okay. I mean, this is what you're supposed to have. This is what's supposed to happen if you're a 5-star. As our friend Jerry Hamilton would like to say always, CJ, a 5-star signs with you. The best and most clear way future 5-stars will see a path is if the guys before them did what they were supposed to do and went on to the NFL. His stats this year: 45 catches, 682 yards. How often? Okay, this is the real key with JT. How often do you hear of a tight end averaging more than 15 yards a catch? At that rate, 45 catches. I mean, he had more catches than Jordan Whittington this year, and he averaged more yards than a wide receiver. That tells you the kind of impact that Steve Sarkisian and he had together, along with Quinn Ewers. The connection certainly really just terrific. I'll never forget his play against Alabama. I thought that game in itself really showed that he was going to be a force this year. Really believe that's a big piece of it. I've got a question for you now. You mentioned Gunnar Helm next at tight end. I think they're going to go. I think they're going to go in the portal, possibly now, almost certainly. We talked about that beforehand. While Juan Davis is a good receiver, you question whether or not he's an inline blocker. Spencer Sanders and Will Randall, really young still, although I do know that Spencer Shannon, excuse me, not Spencer Sanders, the former Oklahoma State quarterback. Spencer Shannon has been looking good, but he's still young, so they may have to go to the portal. The question I have for you is now, what about everybody else? I mean, Adonai Mitchell we're waiting on. Jahdae Barron we're waiting on. Some guys like that. I've been told Jalen Ford, somebody asked me about him the other day. Jalen Ford is scheduled to go work out for his pro stuff starting on Monday. He's going to be in Phoenix. Maurice Blackwell is expected back. He's already signed a lease on a new apartment. So there's all these question marks we have. Jaron Thompson and Keaton Crawford going into the portal like they did. Your thoughts on all of this movement right now at Texas? Some of it good, some of it unfortunate. But I think it's just the price of admission to being a college football playoff team and being good. This has to be, we want this to be normal for Texas, for these things to hurt a little bit because they have such good talent on the roster, right? I mean, and then you need to just fill it back up. You need to fill the tank back up.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is kind of the toughest part about being a top 4, top 5 team in the entire country is you see, early departures to the NFL for guys that still had eligibility and time left in college. But, I mean, they've earned it. For Jatavian Sanders specifically, he's walking away as one of the most decorated Texas tight ends in program history and only having done that in about 2 years of starting time. So that's kind of the double-edged sword or what you juggle right there is that on-field success comes as a result of good players. And when those good players leave, you're now stuck in a spot where you have to find replacements for the next season. So, again, it's exciting to see guys enter the draft with expectations that their name will be called soon. And it certainly will help the future recruiting classes to be able to point to and say, you are next in line in this regard. So the secondary is a little bit of I would say an anomaly in that sense because you're seeing a lot of departures. I think there's 6 defensive back departures since Oklahoma State Big 12 championship game. So a little bit of a one-off in that situation. However, Texas has a plan. They brought in 5 defensive backs in the 2024 class. Andrew Makuba not included, but also coming in as well. There's a lot to be excited about all across the 40 acres in terms of what the 2024 season will bring.
I got to say this. It doesn't hurt that JT Sanders, by the way, went to Denton Ryan, which is one of the more prolific programs in the state when it comes to producing elite talent.
Absolutely.
And so that reinforcement of Texas doing its job will only help the Longhorns long-term at that school because they're going to see JT Sanders on the wall and they're going to see him in a Longhorn uniform and most likely a picture in a pro uniform come April whenever he gets picked in the NFL draft. All right. One other thing I wanted to mention is this. We talked about it a little bit. Gunnar Helm, you're next up, buddy. So it's time for Gunnar Helm to take the reins. We'll see what Texas does outside of him. Is it time for Juan Davis to step up? Spencer Shannon, Will Randall. What's next for Longhorns at tight end? We'll be trying to cover that here for you at On Texas Football. We also have basically a big portal update coming later today as well because CJ and I have been talking about this at length. Just a lot of news. Also, linebacker coach getting hired, etc. We'll have another video here pretty soon. But for now, we wish JT Sanders nothing but the best. You're a Longhorn. Proud of you for taking from that first year where you were kind of just didn't know what you were going to do with your body. We didn't know if you were going to end up being a 5-star. You took that winter workout schedule seriously. You ended up being a true starter last year. You parlayed that into an even better year this year, in my opinion. And now you're going to come out the better for it. So, JT, hook 'em. Do what's best for you, buddy. Proud of you, and best of luck going forward. For CJ Vogel, I'm Bobby Burton. This has been On Texas Football.